Scott Adams saw what Trump was doing, and he alerted us all to the poignant, the powerful, the significant, the spicy um, aspect of what Trump was doing that was sort of underlying the mania. Scott Adams giving a take. He's giving a wrap up.
Of yay.
Here we go.
Twitter terms of service. And I was wondering specifically about Elon Musk's suspending of Yay.
Uh-huh.
Now, Yay got suspended because of that logo, right? It looked like the Star of David with a Nazi logo on the inside.
Right. Yeah.
What do you think the logo was supposed to represent? Interpret the logo in your opinion. It was a swastika. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? So
Yeah.
you saw some violence, maybe some suggested violence. But what about the Star of David part? Was that just to further insult the Jewish community by doing the most offensive mashup you could possibly do? Was it art? Some people say it's art. Here's how I interpreted it. Now, I'm not saying my interpretation is correct, but that's how art works, right? If you look at art, people interpret it differently. So I'll tell you my interpretation. If you look at the larger context of what Ye is doing,
Yeah.
a Nazi symbol surrounded by a Star of David says to me that Ye would like to bring together the people who are least likely to ever come together.
Yo,
That's what it looked like to me.
Base take.
Now you might say, Scott, that's the stupidest. But that was how I interpreted it.
That's how
that
I
was
saw it
actually
too,
my first impression.
Me too, to be
My
honest.
first impression was it was the opposite of hate. It was, hey, even the worst people should at least be able to come together. And I'm going to take the two most objectionable things, at least together, they're objectionable, not individually in one case. And I'm going to make you think about, could the worst, least likely people ever find a way to come together? Now, if you say to yourself, well, Scott, that couldn't possibly be the message. He was sitting next to Nick Fuentes. He's a black rapper who's partnered with Nick Fuentes.
Yep.
He literally is his logo. Like he's the Star of David with a swastika. Now, in a general sense, that the comparison there is unfair, I know, but you see what I'm doing. So, if my interpretation was that it was a very challenging way to say we need to figure out how not to be enemies about everything. That's what it looked like. Now, Elon Musk interpreted it as a sign of hate, so he took him off. And so I wondered, what does the Twitter terms of service say? Well, did you know that the terms of service of Twitter specifically prohibit hate symbols being in your profile? Did you know that? You can't put a hate symbol in your profile. Now, it's not prohibited in your feed, which makes sense, because you could put a hate image in your feed because you're talking about it. You see the point? That doesn't mean you're necessarily supporting it, because other people tweeted Ye's symbol and they were not kicked off because they were talking about it. But if you put it in your profile, you're saying, this is me, right? I associate with this symbol. So that's banned. Now, did Ye put his symbol in his profile? I don't think he did. Did he? He may have tried.
No, he didn't.
No? It was only in his feed. So which Twitter terms of service would apply to that? None that I'm aware of. Well, did it incite violence? Because inciting violence is your interpretation. My interpretation was it was a call to unity, even with the people who are the least likely ever to find unity. The number one least likely group to find unity.
By the way, if you guys don't know who this is, I should tell you. This is Scott Adams. He is the creator and the artist or author of the Dilbert cartoons. This guy created Dilbert. That's where he gets his fame and money from, as the cartoonist who creates Dilbert cartoons that used to be in the newspaper. Remember newspapers when those were a thing? There was the cartoons in there. Scott Adams created Dilbert, the guy with the little necktie that like flips up. They have the square heads, and there's like a dog that talks to him, and it's like office humor. But also, he's interesting because he came out as a Trump supporter at the very beginning when Trump first started running, and he had a take that he said on Joe Rogan. He said that Trump was going to win way before anybody thought legitimately that Trump actually had a chance, and he made um, his play for Trump. He made the call based on his read of Trump's ability in persuasion. And while he made his fame and fortune through the Dilbert cartoon made him famous and rich, but his expertise is actually in hypnotism and persuasion, which he uses those skills as part of his talent stack that allow him to create a cartoon that's particularly poignant or whatever, funny. He inserts ideas through the cartoon in a covert way, which is essentially the root of persuasion and hypnotism, he's incepting an idea. That's what hypnotism essentially is. He saw that Trump was extremely powerful in that skill. So he says that he saw what Trump was doing in the way that he was operating, and he said, what we have is a powerful player here. He's powerful in the ways of persuasion, and he's up against others who are not. And so, even though he's going against the establishment and is technically an underdog, there's a force that he's using that others aren't understanding, and he's going to outplay them. He predicted that Trump would win based on that, and then what we saw was that came to pass. And all along during the campaign and even during the presidency, Scott Adams became a key commentator on Trump and the Trump phenomenon because he was identifying day after day through the campaign and through other times. He was breaking down what Trump was saying and the way that he was saying it and the effect that it was having as he came up with words like fake news and the way he was using that against the media. The way that he did the Rosie O'Donnell moment when the woman was saying, "Didn't you say all this bad stuff about women?" He said, "Only Rosie O'Donnell." He did a breakdown on that and how that was such a powerful way of like a masterful level of persuasion and skill. And when he turned grab him by the puss into locker room talk, and he had this way of diffusing these bombs and dodging minefields. And Scott Adams was showing us, he was giving us his take on. He's like, this is a master at persuasion. That's Trump's skill. Wrote a book called Art of the Deal. It was ghostwritten for him, I guess, but the point is, it's explaining in a way Trump's give and take away. He has all these strategies. Blah, 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 blah. That's why Scott Adams is a guy that we listen to now. He made his bones on that. So now he's sort of a. The other thing about him, my take on him is he's sort of like a crypto right winger. He's actually sort of extremely far right, but he pretends that he couches his far right narrative in these liberal takes. He throws bones to the liberals, and it's part of his persuasion ability. He's in a way he's an exhibition of the thing that he talks about all the time. Even the way that he does his show, it has a hypnotic format to it, and he does this thing called this simultaneous sip in the middle. In the beginning, every time he starts off with ba 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 ba. He has this hypnotic little routine that he goes through. He even explains sometimes, here's how I'm going to tell you about this. I'm going to do a hypnotic persuasion technique on you while I tell you about this, and you're going to love it. And when you see what I've done, you'll believe what I'm saying. And even there, he's already incepting. He's speaking past the sale. It's all sort of basic, but he does know what he's doing. And he did make himself a millionaire with a stupid cartoon. And he did predict Trump correctly pretty much before anybody. And many of his takes are infuriating if you don't understand what he's doing, which is a sort of a sleight of hand maneuver, where a lot of times he's throwing a bone to the leftists and to the institution, to the big tech companies, to the whatever, while while he's doing that, he's smuggling in and incepting another idea that is actually an idea that we like. He'll say one thing, but really he's implanting another idea without saying it. I catch him doing that a lot. So that's what Scott Adams is about. So let's hear what he has to say about Ye and Nick.
The people in the industry. The side effects were unexpected.
Here we go.
All right. Dr. Scott Barry Kaufman, who's also an interesting follow on Twitter. I recommend it.
Wait a minute. Somebody has a clip of him predicting Ye in 2018. Let's watch this. It's 22 minutes long. You have a timestamp for this video you sent me?
I hope most
you
of
hear
you...
him doing it? Bum, 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 bum. Da, 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 da. He does that in the beginning of every video. And I don't think it's just a tick. It's part of creating a familiar vibe. It's almost like an intro. You know how like a show will have a hook, like a theme song that's designed to be a hook? Now think about a show that you've binge watched. I'm thinking of Breaking Bad. You know how there's that weird guitar sounds like boom, 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 boom. But I'm not doing a good imitation of it. My nose is stuffy. But you know what I'm talking about? The Breaking Bad theme song? Anyway, so if you ever watched Breaking Bad, every episode starts with this. It's not even really a song. It's just like a series of odd sounds. And Scott Adams does his hook like this.
Bum, 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 bum. Bum, bum.
So,
Bum, bum.
bum, 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 doo, 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 bum, 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 bum. And if you ever watch his show, it's every single time he does that. And it's kind of funny.
I hope most of you are already home from church, or you're awake after sleeping in, whatever it is that you're doing. But whatever it is, you know what time it is. It's time for Coffee with Scott Adams. That's me. You know who you are. Grab your coffee and let's share a simultaneous sip. I'm drinking to the golden age. So, let me tell you about the golden age. I've been talking about this coming for a while, and maybe you've noticed that the universe seems to be serving up more surprises than normal. It started about the time of President Trump's ascension, from the time that he announced he was running, and it seems to be continuing all the way through the North Korean progress. In each of these cases, what we're seeing are things that we didn't think were possible. This is important to my point. We keep seeing a series of things that don't seem possible based on our old thinking. And I'm going to give you a little chalk talk in a moment. And I'm going to tell you how we're seeing more signs of the golden age.
All right, man, he was even more boring back then. But anyway, the point is this is 4 years ago, and the episode title is Kanye Showed the Way to the Golden Age. So Scott was tapped in on Ye.
You know, what level he can rise to in society, how much money he can make, what industries he can get into and succeed, what things he can say on Twitter. He's simply someone who doesn't see the same mental barriers that others see. Now, what have most observers been saying about President Trump for 2.5 years? It goes something like this. You can't do that. You can't say that. Hold my Diet Coke. I'm going to do that. Watch me do that right in front of you. I'm going to being
I want to hear what he says
solved.
about Ye.
largely, the sanctions are as we like to think the other person is. So let me give you the best example of that recently, so you can see that there might be a pattern developing.
Tell us about Ye. I'm going to
Yes, we're going to the whiteboard.
Lean.
It's whiteboard time. All right, aren't you glad you tuned in for this very special coffee with Scott Adams? Let's have another simultaneous sip, and then I'll take you through this. You're going to like this.
I'll make it even better.
Oh, that's
You're
good.
welcome.
All right. So, we humans have developed a number of prisons of the mind, things that we just imagine to be our limitations or imagine to be true, and it limits what we think is possible and it limits what choices we make. Here are two of the biggest ones. I talk about this a lot. One is the false belief that history repeats. It doesn't. It never does. It just looks like it because we have this pattern recognition brain. So anytime we see anything that reminds us of another thing, we say, well, there it is, history repeating again. But that's not what's happening. History can't repeat because all the variables are changing all the time. So you can't ever have the same starting point you ever had in history. History never repeats, ever. If you think it does, you're in a mental prison. If you think it doesn't, do you know what happens if you think that history doesn't repeat? Then you can become president of the United States without ever being a politician.
Let's go.
If you believe that history repeats, you don't even try. President Trump is not in a mental prison. Did he think that North Korea was unsolvable? Nope. Did he think he couldn't negotiate trade deals? Nope, he didn't think that. Did he think he couldn't give people nicknames and win an election that way? With other stuff, of course. Nope. Did he think he could...
This is very cool.
That nobody could... All right. The problem and the solution were very similar. It was white people. White people were the problem. White people had to change. Then move fast forward to the civil rights era. You have to run that. But an unarmed, some version of this, hoods, of course, and what do you do about it? Very important. And what I mean by that is sort of the philosophy you're seeing from Candace Owens, and you can Google her if you're not familiar with her. She's a conservative African-American woman who's become a very important voice, point of view that you don't see as much as you probably will in the future. Now, what's interesting is that, and what I mean by separating the problem from the solution, is that the conservative view, which Candace holds, is that society has done what it can do, meaning that white people have done what they can do to make the laws, as close as possible, to enforce the laws, etc., and that the last mile, no matter whose problem it is, no matter who causes the problem, this is what's different. It doesn't matter if white people are or are not the cause of the last mile problem. They can't fix it. They can do what they can do, but they're not really the solution. So Candace's, I would say, realization is that the problem and the solution are disconnected. And if you're still locked in the past, thinking that white people have to do something, much different, you're going to be missing your opportunities. That you're thinking about it wrong, and therefore your solutions will be suboptimal. Now, let me say, I'm doing the best I can to only the people who have the problem can fix it themselves. Yeah. Was part of the voting. Yeah. And he ripped a hole in reality.
Yo, let's go.
With 7 words. Because Kanye is supposed to be over here. And Candace is supposed to be over here. And they're not ever supposed to say the other one said something right. All right? That's not supposed to happen. But Kanye did it anyway. Kanye knows history doesn't repeat. He's not a prisoner of the mind. He knows that the problem is not the solution. Whatever you want to say about Kanye's politics, and I don't even know what his preferred politics would be. I'm not even sure what party he would run for it if he ran for president at this point. Whatever else you want to say about him, and I don't know enough about his actual, management skills or political ability, but he did something that you could rarely see. He actually just altered reality. He just made the entire conservative Twitter sphere just go something like this. It's like your head just went.
But the point is, Scott Adams saw what Trump was doing, and he alerted us all to the poignant, the powerful, the significant, the spicy aspect of what Trump was doing that was sort of underlying the mania. The NPC brain, the news media brain, they were all saying he's crazy, he's a narcissist, he's got no experience in politics, he can't make it, he's idiot, he's divorced, he's bankrupt, he's fake hair, he's orange, blah, 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 blah. And Scott Adams goes, but hold on, guys. Hold on. Listen to what he said. Notice what he just did. That was something very special. And he's like, you know me because of my cartoons, but really my expertise as a person that I know myself to be, he's like, I'm an expert in persuasion, and actually I'm a trained hypnotist. And I see what he's doing to all of you, and you don't see it. That's how hypnotism works. All it requires from the person being hypnotized is consent. As long as you believe that hypnotism will work or could work, and you're willing to be hypnotized, the hypnotist can hypnotize you. The sleeping masses, I mean, we call them NPCs because we call them bots. I mean, we call them all these things because they're programmable characters, meaning that they run on hypnotism. They are hypnotized. It's only quite a matter of what persuasion are they under? What influence is influencing them? They are not sovereign characters, all of the people. They are susceptible to hypnotism, nearly 100% of them. Like, that's their default, is to be hypnotized. So when Scott Adams says, hey, we got a player in the game here who's able to make a glitch happen in the Matrix, he noticed what Trump was doing, and here we are 4 years ago, and he's going, hey, look at this Kanye guy, who went by Kanye back then. This guy knows what he's doing. This guy just did something that you shouldn't be able to do. And he's talking about this whole thing that went down with him and Candace Owens and the MAGA hat, and he said slavery was a choice, and there was all sorts of stuff happening back then. He goes, this guy's a player. This is a neo. This is a broken free, a jacked in, real human being. Right? This is a liberated person who can liberate others or influence others. Anyway, so this was the assessment from 2018. So now let's jump to what he said about Ye yesterday. And by the way, something else interesting that Adams recently said was that he declared when Ye did the Fox News interview, before he came out with the Jew talk, before he did the DEFCON 3, he was coming out and doing the Tucker Carlson and all that stuff. So recently, a matter of a few weeks ago, Scott Adams said that from now on, Ye, Kanye West, now known as Ye, is my spiritual guide. That's what he referred to him as. He said, he's not, I don't know if I'm going to vote for him. I don't know if he's a viable political candidate for me. I'm not saying I'm supporting him for his run for president. But he is my spiritual guide. And that's how he referred to Ye. So what I'm telling you is, Scott Adams gets it. He's tapped in on the Ye question. So let's keep going.
He said today, this was I'm going to disagree with him a little bit here, but this was a good contribution to the conversation. He said people are blaming Ye's behavior on his bipolar diagnosis. I'd like to point out that when you see histrionic and antagonistic antisocial behaviors, they are much better predicted by narcissistic personality disorder than bipolar disorder. See here for the correlation matrix. And no pun intended, he shows a matrix, of course it has to be a matrix, of different, different behaviors and what it means, and they correlate, etc. And if you see a chart, a matrix of mental, let's say mental illness, in 2022, what do you think about it? It just all looks like astrology.
On the topic of hypnotism.
When I see a complicated medical scientific chart, my immediate point is that immediate impression is, well, that's not true. And it doesn't even matter what the topic is. Like it could have been, any part of mental or physical health. If I'd seen that complicated chart, I would have just assumed it wasn't true. So that's where we are now. We're at the point where anything medical experts say, and they put a big scientific-y chart with data, I just say, well, that's probably not true. I'm not going to ignore it, because, when experts say something, you don't want to ignore it. It might be true, but the credibility is, below zero. Now, do you think that the mental health community, the experts, do you think they can tell the difference mental tribal elements of the mental health real same opinion? I know you don't want me to.
Okay, here we go.
But there's something we need to say about Ye.
Here we go.
Can you handle it?
We're here for it. This is what we're here
for. A little bit? All right.
Let's go.
Let me give you a little walk in the park of the history of Ye. And I want to see if you can put all of these little pieces together into anything that feels like a pattern. See if you can find the pattern, okay?
Okay.
So, you remember when Ye interrupted Taylor Swift's award-winning thing, and he got up there, and instead of letting the award ceremony progress in its normal way, he got up there and said, probably the main thing you should not say in that situation, which is somebody else should have won this award, right? Would you agree that whatever else it was, and you'll have lots of descriptions of how bad it was, would you agree that he shouldn't have said it? Can you all give me that? It was something that very specifically you should not have said, even if you believed it. You shouldn't say it out loud in public. Yeah. So that happened. Do you know what Ye was criticized for when he was just doing music? Do you remember what the biggest criticism of Ye was when he was just the artist doing music? Anybody remember? Because it's weird that you forgot. His songs were insanely misogynistic, said his critics. Insanely misogynistic.
Based.
Now,
he was a great.
Who thinks that in the last 20 years you could be a public personality and talk shit about women and you could get away with it? So he said a lot of the stuff you're not supposed to say about women, right? So he did that, and really, like, who goes after women, like, and just insults them and makes money on it? Well, rappers. So he comes from a world in which saying the thing you're not supposed to say is exactly your job, right? Do you think rappers say what is socially acceptable? I feel like the essence of rap is saying things that would be uncomfortable for the people in charge. Things about, women, things about their feelings about police, maybe praising bad behavior, illegal behavior, that sort of thing. So rap, by its nature, is artists who are saying the most dangerous things that you're specifically not supposed to say, right? So that's part of the context. Now let's move on. Do you remember? Of course you do. when Ye said he likes Trump, wasn't that the one thing that a black man couldn't say in public at the time without huge consequences? It was. It was like the most dangerous thing a black man could say. And he said it over and over again. Do you remember when Ye went on, I forget which show, you'll tell me which show because I'm blanking, and he said that slavery, the history of slavery, he said there were so many more slaves than there were masters at the time. He said that slavery looks like a choice. Remember what happened when he said slavery looks like a choice? He basically insulted all of black America and much of white America and everybody else who might be supportive. And he said the worst thing you could say about black America. Like, I don't think you could have said a worse thing about black Americans. And did he say, I'm only talking about some black people? When he said that? When he was being misogynistic, did he say, whoa, 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 hold on, no. I'm not talking about women. I'm not talking about bitches, to use his word. I'm talking about some individual women who have behaviors I don't like. Did he ever clarify that? I don't think so. When he talked about black people must have been a choice to slavery, did he say some of those black people must have treated it like a choice? He didn't. He treated it like black people or like a group that act together. Very offensive, wouldn't you say? Very offensive. Yeah. It was the worst thing you could say in that situation. When Ye made a turn toward being super religious, and suddenly he wasn't that edgy rapper, he was the super religious guy, did it ever occur to you that that was like the most dangerous thing that Ye could do? One of the most dangerous things you could have done, say 2 years ago, was to come out as super Christian and conservative, family conservative religious. It was just about the most dangerous thing you could say in public, if you think about it, right? Especially from where he was coming from. Most dangerous thing you could say. When he wore the White Lives Matter shirt with Candace Owens, wasn't that the worst thing you could say in public about that time? It was the most controversial, worst thing you could say. Yeah. Now, did he say that some white lives matter and some do not? I don't remember. I think he treated white people like they were like one unit. But we're not, right? We're not one unit. There must be some white people that don't matter, like serial killers and stuff. But yet he treated us all like we're just one unit. Very unfair. So he's treated women as if they're like one thing. Very offensive. I
just had such a good idea, and it's to speed this guy up a lot.
White people like one unit. He treated black people like they're one group.
Yeah. So much better.
And then he got to the Jews are trying to stop him from being successful. Wow. Third rail. It's the worst thing you could say in public and expect to get away with it.
Yep.
Right? The worst thing you could say. And he treated all Jews like it's like one group of people, when in fact we knew that just some specific individuals he had a problem with. Very unacceptable, treating an entire group as if they're one thing. And then he took it up a level. He said, I see good things about Hitler. Well, that's something you can't say. What is the worst thing you could say? The one thing nobody can say in public. Hitler has some good sides. You can't say that. It's the thing you can't say. Even with free speech, you can't say that.
True.
And then he teamed up with Nick Fuentes and said, Nick's great. Oh, you can't do that. You cannot do that. And they started work with Milo Yiannopoulos. You can't do that. No. You cannot say there's anything good with Milo, because if you do, it would feel like you're supporting pedophiles, wouldn't it? Even though Milo is not accused of pedophilia. He's accused of something that's a different word, but people confuse with pedophilia. So I think he was talking about older teens, which technically is not pedo, but everybody sees it that way. Right? So I'm not making that distinction. I'm saying that Ye would know that people won't make that distinction. So associating with Milo put him in that sort of little supportive of a pedophile. Do you know what you can't say? You can never say anything that's even slightly supportive of a pedophile. So what do you say about Balenciaga when they were accused of being a pedophile organization? He defended them. Not the specific photo shoot, but he defended the company that is not defending itself from pedophilia. They're not defending themselves. Let me say it again. Balenciaga never said how the photo shoot happened and therefore explained why they're not really guilty. They never did. But Ye defended the group that is accused of being pedophile friendly. Do you know what you can't do? You can't do that. But he did it. Here's the pattern. Have you picked it up yet? Do you see the pattern? And then another hint came when I watched some more of the behind the scenes of Ye's visit to Alex Jones. And you see Nick Fuentes defending Ye's treatment of, quote, the Jews as like one group of people he has trouble with. And here's what Fuentes said. We're okay treating every other group as one group. To which I said, hey, that's so wrong in ways I can't quite articulate. No, Nick Fuentes, you fucking racist. Well, your examples are pretty good, but that's wrong. That's so wrong. Except, makes you think, doesn't it? Makes you think. Now, if anybody's new to my live stream, I don't like Hitler completely. Like, I hate his fucking little mustache. I hate the lint in his fucking pocket. He's all bad. Because I know what to say in public, right? It's not hard. Now, here's the question that's going to blow your fucking head off. You ready?
Let's go.
Ready for this?
Let's go down to super slow-mo normal speed for the blow your head off question. Should be good.
Let's accept that Ye has some mental conditions. Maybe he's...
Oh, I regret it. All right, we'll go 1, 2, 5.
Maybe he's bipolar, maybe he's something else. Do you think that any of the mental conditions that Ye is accused of would make him incapable of knowing what things to say to make him popular with the public and what things to say that would make him very unpopular with the public? Do you think he can't tell the difference between saying the right thing and saying the thing that will absolutely get you in trouble? Do you think he can't tell the difference? Somebody says yes, that if it's mania, if he's in the mania phase, he can't tell the difference. I would think the mania phase means he's not afraid of consequences. I don't think it makes you unable to see what's right in front of you. So here's my take. It seems deeply unlikely that he was surprised by any of the reactions to any of the things I mentioned. Do you think he was surprised by any of it? No. Do you think he would know exactly what to say and do if he wanted to get back into the good graces of the public? Of course. Of course. We all do. It's not like it's a hard question. It would be the easiest question in the world. Just say you didn't mean any of those things, apologize for it, do some good works for people you might have hurt, that sort of thing. Now, what about the perfectly valid complaint from the Jewish community that Ye's rhetoric puts an extra risk on Jews? True or false? The way Ye talks makes them feel uncomfortable and adds some extra risk to their life. True. Absolutely true. Now let's go full Nick Fuentes and compare that to everybody else talking about anything.
Let's go full Nick Fuentes.
Do you think that the way the Democrats talk about me puts me at greater risk of literally being killed? Yes or no? Is the way they talk about me on social media every day put me at risk of physical danger? Yes.
Good point.
Absolutely. Have you ever seen me say that they need to stop doing that because it's putting me in physical danger? Have I ever said that? You need to stop using your free speech because it puts me in physical danger. I've noted that it does. But that's different than saying they need to stop it. Right? Not once. No.
Good point.
When Ye said white lives matter, was he putting himself at greater physical risk? Of course he was. And also the people who supported him. Did he put Candace Owens at greater physical risk by associating her with that message? Yes. I mean, she already puts herself at great risk. By the way, Candace Owens is one of the bravest people, in the public realm. Like, she's brave. Like, you got to give her that. So look at the big picture. Number one, how many of you saw the behind-the-scenes video of Ye preparing his little mask and his routine for Alex Jones?
Let's go.
If you watched him preparing for
Saw Paul's vid.
you saw somebody who did not look crazy at all. And as he was talking about wearing the mask, he was completely aware that would make it impossible to ignore. He went full rock star, full Trump, and he said, all right, if you're gonna cut me off from social media, I will become impossible to ignore, and then I'm going to go on there and say the most outrageous thing anybody ever said, and let's see what happens. Here's another clue. Ali Alexander, who's also associated now with Ye, he said on that video specifically that they were breaking the Overton window. I may be saying it wrong, but the Overton window is basically the idea that you could keep your critics or your enemies in a state of continuous spinning if you keep doing one more outrageous thing after another. They can't settle on the last outrageous thing. They have to keep up with you. So it's sort of what Trump did. All of his individual statements that could have ended anybody else didn't end Trump because he was already on to the next statement. And that was controversial too. And then the next one, right? So now that you know the following things that maybe you didn't put together. Number one, Kanye and his group are specifically and overtly talking about the Overton window. Everything they're doing supports that theory of operation. There's no way I could possibly believe that Ye was not completely aware of all of the reactions he would get from beginning to end. Yep. Everybody would know the reaction, everybody. Here's what I think he's up to. And he might pull it off. What's he up to, Scott? Ooh, I don't know. Now, and again, if you're new to my live stream, I'm not supporting Ye. What's he up to? And I said this yesterday, I think. Ye is making himself unlikable, and I accept that. So I don't like him. Right? I would like him if he said nice things about the Jewish community. I would like him more. I would like him if he were, said things that I could embrace without being embarrassed. I'd like that. That'd be cool. But here's what I think he's up to. What is it? I think he's breaking your brain. Yo! And he's getting very close to succeeding. Let's go. Because you can't tell where that breaking point is because he's bending us, and we're bending and bending and bending. Yeah. It's not until you see the whole portfolio of what he's done in the last few years that you see he's intentionally finding the most challenging thing you could hold in your mind and then making you deal with it. Now, I've said before that Ye is not somebody who just creates art. He is living art. Everything he does pushes or challenges you to reconsider the way you were thinking of things. Right? Everything we're watching is a challenge to the old way you were thinking. From the very beginning of what is an award show, right? The most basic thing that nobody would question is, what is an award show? Well, it's where somebody gets an award and they say thank you and everybody claps. And then Ye said, how about this as an award show? How about not? How about I go up there and make it a different show? And then he did. So if you look at the whole portfolio, it looks a lot less crazy, and it looks like an artist who is breaking all of our expectations about what artists can do, who can say what, and he has broken maybe the most important barrier that we have for getting together, which is we're not allowed to say what we think. Yeah. We're not allowed to say what we think, and until we're allowed to say what we think, we'll never come together. The country can never come together if we can't talk and say what we actually think, right? As bad as it is, right? Because lots of times we think pretty ugly things. Ye is just breaking all of the rules. He's just showing you can say everything you want to say as long as you're willing to pay for it with everything. Now, let's double back to something that you really don't see coming. You ready for this? When Ye said that there were so many more slaves than white people who were trying to control them back in slavery, he said that it looked like a choice. And then all historians, and especially black historians, said, whoa, 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 whoa. That was no fucking choice. The group that had the weapons would have just, slaughtered us, right? Here's what I think Ye would have said, just speculating, based on everything that he's done so far. I think he'd say, right. How does that affect my point? Right, they would have slaughtered them. And they also probably would have ended up winning. They might have lost 90% of their numbers, but they could have ended up winning because they had the...
Yes, that's what it means. Exactly. The point is that it's a choice to not fight back. Slavery is a choice, meaning you're choosing to live instead of die for your freedom. Yeah. It's the same as that every day is a choice. Really. But how much are you willing to give to make your day be what you want it to be? Steve, You're a freak, dude. That's not a nipple. That's my shoulder. That's my collarbone. Look at him. He's nursing on me. He just can't get cozy without like suckling on something. He's a little freak. That's a zipper. You gonna suckle on the zipper? You got problems, dude. You got issues, Steve. Scott Adams is kind of dishing it up to the normies, but it ain't. I ain't mad at him for it. I mean, this has did I see it? 112,000 subscribers, 30,000 views. I don't know how many got all the way through the video, the boring video? 100. It's an hour in, but let's say half of them got that and heard it. That's 15,000 more people that would have a different level of respect for Ye. And Scott Adams, so he's a covert ally in my assessment. You got to take what he says with a grain of salt because in order to understand what he's doing, you have to know that he's throwing a bone to the haters, to the controllers, to the masters, while he's slipping and smuggling in something that isn't allowed, something that's not expected. He is also interested in breaking the window, in breaking the frame. He always has been interested in that. That's why when we find this video from 2018, Scott Adams was in love with what Trump was doing and in love with what Kanye and Candace Owens were doing. Because he is of the same mind. He's on the same mission. He's not doing it the same way, and he's not naming the Jew like we do. But he's interested in breaking the window so that we can speak freely and think